So I guess it's 3:35. I think we can begin now. If people come in late, they'll still be welcome. We'll start with the land acknowledgement. As a national organization, we acknowledge and are grateful for the land on which we work, play, and create. This is still home to Indigenous people across Turtle Island. STEPS is committed to cultivating safe spaces for Indigenous voices to be heard, and we encourage you all to learn more about the land where you reside. STEPS is located in Toronto, Ontario. We would like to take the opportunity to acknowledge that we are located in an ancestral Wendat territory in the shared territory of the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee, covered by the Dish with One Spoon Treaty and later Treaty 13, signed with the Mississauga of the Credits and the William Treaties, signed with multiple Mississauga and Chippewa bands. We encourage you to post in the chat where you're zooming in from, and you can use the nativeland.ca website to help you identify whose traditional lands you are currently residing on. Well, thank you all for being here. I'll do a quick introduction of the STEPS team. My name is Madison, and I'm the placemaking coordinator, and I'm accompanied with a handful of amazing women here today who all work at STEPS and will be helping to facilitate this info session. We have Krupa here as well, who's been a great support with HeART Main Street. We have Maya here as well. She'll be speaking a bit later. We have Grace, who is the engagement manager, helping with all things promotional with HeART Main Street and all the techie things with this info session, along with her team, who is composed of Megan, Eva, and Kruti. So thank you all for helping with this info session. We'll go over the agenda for today. So we'll start with a little intro to STEPS. So this will be a chance for you to learn more about what STEPS does and get to know us a bit better. We'll then do a quick HeART Main Street overview and how this program came to be and how we're able to support BIAs across Canada with some quick turnaround public art projects. We'll then have a breakout room discussion. So you'll be grouped in with different BIAs from across Canada, and we'll talk about different challenges, assets, and ideas you have for your BIAs. So it's a great way to connect with other folks and share your ideas and thoughts. We'll then go over the application process and the next steps for you all to apply for this program. And then finally, we'll have a question period. So I'll hand it over to Krupa now.
Right. Hi, everyone. So STEPS is a national charitable public arts organization based in Toronto. Our mandate is to foster vibrant public spaces by developing public art plans, one-of-a-kind installations, and engagement strategies. So the work that we do can be separated into three categories: helping to meet your public art regulatory requirements, transforming spaces through a contextual and site-specific curation, and telling stories of communities, its people, and histories through creative engagement strategies. And our mission is to transform underutilized spaces through art and inspire other cities to reimagine their public spaces through large-scale art installations. To date, we have partnered with over 50 BIAs and municipalities across Ontario. Some of the ways that STEPS have worked with the BIAs in the past include helping them identify local placemaking assets and opportunities. We also help them identify ways in BIAs could include more public art along their main streets to help with COVID recovery and economic recovery. And now that you know a little bit about us, we want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself if you haven't already done so. So if you want, you can change your names to include your BIAs you're representing today. And tell us where you're zooming in from in Canada. Right, we have Central Ontario, many from the Western Prairies. Right. Oh, wow. So we have 77% from Ontario, Quebec, and everyone else from other parts of Canada. That's so exciting. Right, and this program actually began in 2020 due to the pandemic to support BIAs and artists during a challenging time. We're excited for HeART Main Street to continue in its fourth year, bringing more public art to Canadian main streets and communities. HeART Main Street is made possible with the support and funding provided by the Government of Ontario, Canada Healthy Communities Initiative, Canada Council for the Arts, and Ontario Arts Council. And I'll hand it over to Madison to speak next.
Thank you, Krupa. So as we all know, the pandemic has been very hard and challenging on commercial streets, and STEPS has a long history of supporting BIAs and artists. So when COVID hit, we turned to these two networks and asked what challenges they were facing. So many BIAs came back to us and said that they were facing decreased foot traffic. They were having troubles navigating new customer interaction methods with a lot of things moving online. And they had very stretched BIA and staff resources. From our artist network, we heard challenges such as loss of income, canceled gigs, lack of exhibition space, and the feeling of isolation. So there seemed to be a natural opportunity for businesses and art communities to work together to come up with creative solutions to help combat these challenges and bring people back to the main streets. Placemaking for community recovery can look like a lot of different things, but at the end of the day, we really want to help you make your streets more beautiful, make you feel more connected to your space. We want to help foster a sense of safety in the area, help create business and community connections. These projects are a great opportunity for digital engagement and promotion of your area, and definitely helps with cultural tourism and self-guided exploration. So in response to some of these challenges, we worked with a number of BIAs to come up with creative placemaking projects. We have a little sizzle reel we'd love to share with you, and this highlights our projects that we did last winter. So it will help you get an idea of what's possible and hopefully get your imaginations flowing. I hope you all like that. I will hand it over to Krupa.
Right, as you can see, so this past summer, we actually engaged with artists to create a variety of different types of art activations. Here's an example of some of the types of art projects that we created, such as an electrical box activation, street furniture installations, ground decals, or storefront window exhibits, which are more popular in the winter time. And some BIAs also worked on audio animation projects, along with pole murals, photography displays, and paper installation exhibits. While other BIAs worked on cafetio parquet exhibits, creative picnic table covers, wayfinding signage, and fence installations. The options are endless. And I'll hand it over to Maya.
Thank you, Krupa. As you can see on this slide, we've received a number of testimonials from artists, BIAs, and community members. It's so nice to hear the positive impacts that this project and these projects have on the community, and so many. I'll just read one. This is from Lisa, who's from the Brookville BIA. We are very pleased with the artwork. This was our first art installation, but has created a lot of discussion and attention, which we are confident will help to strengthen support for future projects. Next, we're just going to hear from some of the artists who have participated in this program. It's just a quick video.
We're all artists by heart, and I think if we believe more in our heart, art's like infinite.
We have been locked down, for 2 years now, and people have not been able to go to any indoor entertainments. And so here we have a city covered with public art, which is, a free gallery. We couldn't go to the AGO, but now we can at least, or through the pandemic, we've been able to see some beautiful art everywhere we walk. I would love to see more young people wanting to be artists, and so I think this would be a great way for them to see art that they might not be prone to go to a gallery. So
I hope that the window art will help bring attention to the businesses. My hope is that someone will walk by on the street, see the work in the windows, and just bring something special and unique to their day. I think it's a really great way to bring human elements to spaces and something fun during the pandemic. Someone had to come up with the ideas for the designs, collaborate with people to make it happen. So it's really combining people together to bring something nice to the community. It's particularly special to me since I live not too far away. So I've been to a lot of these shops and restaurants before. So it's really great to be able to bring my art to my community.
We're taking old spaces and making them new again. It brings more people downtown. It allows for people to have something as almost like a landmark to go to. And when they go to it, they'll also be able to go to the stores surrounding and be able to help with the economy by spending the money there and shopping locally. So it really does help. I'd like to be able to see young people start painting more. Burlington has kind of been sheltered in terms of the street art scene. Being a young person in Burlington, I never was able to see any big murals, and I'm honored today to be able to work on one so large and so impactful to the community.
From my perspective as an artist, for when it comes to economic recovery, is that there is hope. If I could change someone's day by making them stop and look at art, think about themselves and what they see in their day, then I'm almost like a visual therapist. And I think when we create more public art where people get to investigate, talk about the history, talk about who they are themselves, I think we can create a world that's a little bit more mindful and more genuine when it comes to being themselves.
Thank you, and I'm going to hand it back off to Madison.
Thanks, Maya. We'll chat a little bit about more around what HeART Main Street entails. So when you are submitted into the program, we will help you with artist recruitment and engagement support. So we do have an extensive roster full of artists that we work with, but we're always happy to work with new artists, and we do want to work with artists who are local to your community. So we'll help connect you to these folks. We also supply activation coaching. So when you're accepted, we'll have a kickoff meeting between STEPS and the BIA. This is when we're able to talk more about your project ideas and kind of make a plan and next steps as to how we'll make this happen for you. We'll also be able to support with artist fee subsidies, which is up to $1,000 split between 2 artists. We do want to make sure the artists are being paid fairly for their work. We follow the CARFAC guidelines to ensure this is done. So I do want to note that $1,000 will not cover the entire artist fee. So the BIA will need to budget on top of this to make sure everyone's getting paid fairly for their work. We will also provide visual documentation. So we'll have a professional documentarian go out to take photos of the process of this work. And then again, at the end, when the work has been completed, we'll do a fun celebration photo shoot with all the stakeholders involved. We will also promote this project through our social media networks and newsletters, which reaches up to 20K people. And finally, you'll be able to potentially win a prize. So at the end of each round, we have a group that comes together made up of different community members in the arts, artists, folks from RBC who is one of our big sponsors, and they will vote on a project that fits these 3 categories. So community engaged, transformational, and innovative. And if you do win this prize, then your BIA will have additional supports to create another project. I'll pass it to Grace now.
Thank you so much, Madison. Hi, everyone. So alongside, on top of the different supports that Madison had mentioned, HeART Main Street projects will also be featured on the STEPS Public Art app that actually launched during the summer round of last year. So since summer 2021, the app has received over 17,000 views and interactions through virtual project visits and self-guided walking tours. And it also acts as a map, so the public can actually locate your public art activations and plan local visits, or even just experience it virtually if they're unable to attend in person. This app is just another platform and extension for promoting your project to your community and experiencing the artwork virtually for those who can't be there in person. And so we'll drop some download links in the chat so you can check out some projects that fellow BIAs have been up to since the start of the program, as well as other STEPS projects that have been happening across the country. Hopefully I'll kind of give you some ideas to some public art projects that could happen in your community. The download is not needed for the web app, but this is best experienced through the app version via the App Store for Apple users or Google Play for Android users. So we hope you enjoy checking those out. Thank you. And so alongside the app, STEPS also will leverage our various digital channels to promote your projects on local, provincial, and national scales through different channels such as the STEPS website, social media, our monthly newsletter, as well as through impactful visual storytelling through photos and videos by talented photographers and videographers, a lot of them also emerging artists themselves, to reach visitors and communities from near and far through strong documentation that you'll also be able to have access to and use as well. And so some marketing promotional supports include access to a communications and social media guide that we create in-house with just helpful information about this program, how to promote your project, who to tag, as well as access to your photo documentation of your project that can be used in your own materials. We'll also have project spotlights featuring the BIA and all the artists involved that are seen by over 20K followers across our social media and monthly newsletter platforms. We're also super active on social media, so we're always super excited to reshare your posts and the posts by artists involved for more cross-promotional opportunities to leverage our collective audiences, and also to reach audiences outside of our current networks through paid sponsored ad campaigns to raise more awareness and excitement over your community projects. Your projects will also be featured on a dedicated webpage for the upcoming winter round as well. We will leave a couple of links in the chat of past program pages for you to explore all the fun projects that have happened in this past year. And lastly, STEPS also frequently puts together announcements and media releases for HeART Main Street to generate larger program awareness and, of course, to celebrate all the wonderful projects happening. We recently put out a release to announce this upcoming round and also the BIA project winners of the last round. So we hope you get a chance to take a quick read. And so we'd love for you to follow STEPS on socials, for us to follow you as well. So we'll add more links in the chat to our channels. And you can also check out some Main Street projects through hashtag Main Street Art Challenge as well. And so now we want to hear from you. I'm going to start our next poll. 1 second. We are interested to hear what your BIA's most preferred or active social media platform is. We'll give it a couple more seconds. And as we wait for our poll results to come in, feel free to pop in the comments or in the chat. How often do you post? Does your BIA have dedicated staff who manage social media and create graphics, who handle all the communications for your team? This is super helpful information for us to kind of understand what are some of the available resources your BIA has. Right now I can see Instagram, Facebook are both in the lead. I'll give it a couple more seconds. All right, it looks like almost Instagram and Facebook are really close. STEPS is on all these platforms except for TikTok. We haven't ventured to the TikTok space yet. But yes, these are platforms that we're all super familiar with and where we typically share your projects. And so now I think I will pass it off to Krupa.
Thanks, Grace. Right, so the purpose of HeART Main Street is to design solutions that are geared towards your BIA challenges, as well as the surrounding community's needs and assets. This is done by finding ways to use public art and creative placemaking to develop a solution that ensures our main streets remain the vibrant places we know and love. So here are some of the activations that could be done in the winter months, like window installations, light installations, and painted windows. And some of the other ideas are audio animations, video projections, or paper installations. So the options are endless. I think we just need to be more creative and see what can be done in our communities. And some of the other activation ideas can also include street furniture, ground wall murals, and pool murals. And the possibilities are even more endless when we move into the spring months. And I'll pass it over to Madison.
Thank you. So we'd love to hear from you again. We would love to know if your BIA has engaged in any winter activations before. So feel free to, use the poll. Let us know if you want to type in the chat to elaborate more on the projects you've done. Feel free to do that as well. Lots of light installations. Love to see that. It's really nice to have that in the winter when it gets dark so early. Storefront paintings, always fun as well. I'm curious, what have you been up to? And if you haven't done it yet, I know it's a bit more intimidating to do winter projects because it's a bit more restricting, especially living in Canada with the winter weather. But like Krupa said, anything's possible. We just need to be creative. Oh, someone said in the chat, storytelling festival in Fireside. That sounds really lovely. I love that. Oh, awesome. I'd love to hear more about this later. That sounds like a great activation. Well, it seems like most of you do light installations, which is amazing, followed by storefront paintings, sculptures, which is also really cool, something unique. A bunch of people had other ideas, so even better. And then for those who haven't done it yet, maybe this is your season. So now we're going to jump into some breakout rooms. So you'll be randomly organized into these breakout rooms. So we have a nice mix of folks from rural communities, urban communities, folks from out west, more central Ontario, just so we really generate these rich conversations. And we'll just be getting together to share the assets, challenges, and ideas that you have for your BIA. So please share past experience if you've done winter activations before, talk about how that went, just really help each other out as an opportunity to brainstorm and then also prepare for your application to the program. So we'll just hold tight when Kruti sends us away to these breakout rooms. I believe everyone's back now. I'll share a few things that our group discussed in group 1. Some of the challenges we talked about were having these small budgets that didn't allow for BIAs to hire staff members to support with these projects. We also talked about the challenges around applying for grants and the limited amount of grants these BIAs can apply for. We did also talk about the businesses, a lot of businesses going under, unfortunately, due to COVID, although we did have one member say that in their BIA was the opposite case. So that's a good thing for them and a nice positive thing to hear. Some of the assets we talked about would be big vacant lots. We talked about street furniture and construction even can be an asset to put artwork there. We talked about planters, creatives within the community, artists who are interested in supporting. Some of the ideas we talked about would be story festivals, animating street furniture, a lot of projection art and light art, some tree trunk carving, which would be something different and cool. We talked about other options such as interactive art, getting different community members involved. I think that was a good recap. I will pass it off to group 2 to highlight what they discussed.
Thanks, Madison. In our group discussion, some challenges that were brought up include vandalism, challenges in bringing people back to the area, rebranding. We also talked about having to move back indoors for the weather with the winter season coming up. Some mentioned construction and difficulty gathering community support. And we also talked about, yes, funding and expenses as well. In terms of different assets and resources, there some that were shared include like artists and organizations and community associations that are willing to take part and to be a part of a public art or a community project. one BIA mentioned rich history associated with the area, which I think has a lot of opportunities to take advantage of and use towards a fun activation. New equipment, and also having a downtown business zones and having highly populated areas as well. And for different ideas, or some projects that BIAs have done in the past include lights in the park. The Junction BIA is entering their 4th Window Wonderland, which is really exciting, and kind of leveling up and also bringing AR to the storefronts and the public art projects on those activations. And there's also ideas surrounding billboards and warming structures for any like outdoor activations, such as animations or movies outdoors. And yeah, so that was what our group had discussed. I guess I'll pass it off to group 3.
Yes, thanks, Grace. So our group, with our challenges that we discussed, had vandalism was the #1 concern. And there has been construction that has been coming up in some of the towns. And I think with that comes wayfinding issues and activating some of the main streets that would not have the same access that others would have because of this temporary construction, which would go on for quite a certain period of time. And with considering like assets, we talked about there was a lot of opportunities in space, like different canvases, points like the cenotaph and the city, like the main square, and how to activate those spaces, and having like walls for murals that are already approved, and sort of going from there. And with the winter ideas, we talked about how they had like alley activations with winter lights and using social media as like a main advantage point, making Instagrammable activations to engage students that are more in the city, and using these light poles with gingerbread themes, which are more like popular within kids, but also engages the adults at the same time, and creating that holiday effect. And I think one that really stood out to our group was this idea that downtown like London had put forward, which are moving murals. I think that was really interesting, which was like a very innovative idea. But yeah, that was our group. And I will pass it back to Madison.
Thank you so much, Krupa. So now we're joined by Jennifer Lay, who is from Riverside BIA, and she'll be speaking a bit about her experience. I think Krupa might have a little intro for you.
Yes. The Riverside BIA is in Toronto's east and has been part of the HeART Main Street since 2020 when the program first launched. Their first project, Humans of Riverside, was a visual storefront exhibit that highlighted local community members and business owners in the neighborhood. This project was awarded the Community Engaged Award, in which the prize went towards a series of Winter Wonderland window murals. In 2021, Riverside BIA partnered with the neighboring Leslieville BIA to create a number of ground murals, and finally they completed a light installation with steps this fall. I would like to introduce to you Jennifer Lay from Riverside BIA, who's going to speak about their experience. Hi, Jennifer.
Hello, thanks for having me. Yeah, so you gave a good introduction. So that was some of the things I was going to mention. But I guess from our experience, we learned a lot through these projects so far. And I know we're embarking on yet another project with Steps. I think from doing these projects from start to finish, we learned about the idea of, planning art projects, what we need to do from the beginning to the end of that. We learned about tools such as artist callouts and how to build those out, where to share them out, and of course, having Steps involved in that has been very helpful to kind of introduce us to the idea of, public artists roster, and other resources to find, to put these out to artists, as well as the idea of making sure that our opportunities are always giving some priority to BIPOC artists or emerging artists and artists with disabilities. So we learned a lot through just from starting out. And also the idea of thinking that project through in terms of the promotion of your activation and how you kind of structure things in terms of the scheduling with artists, making sure that it's considering weather dependencies, the types of materials you're working with, and whether that's something that the BIA is taking care of or the artists. And also looking at how to ensure the artists are properly recognized throughout the process. So with our projects, we started off by developing calls for artists, and we did get resources on that from STEPS. We work with STEPS to develop artist contracts that will be provided to artists. We have a meeting with artists so that they have a chance to kind of review the project, ask questions, and clarify things. And then kind of doing the whole scheduling of the project. When is it being installed? Where? Who's involved? So with ours, each of our projects, there were over 15 locations for each for the art pieces, including sidewalk murals, window-based murals, and others. So there's a lot of moving parts, and making sure you have kind of these templates developed that would allow you to keep track of all those things has been really essential. So we're getting into our I guess, third year of scheduling Window Wonderland, which is 16 windows, and kind of reusing those resources and getting more support on promotion of that is really where we're going with it. But we're working off a really good base, and each of these projects gets a little bit easier, with experience. You kind of work from what you know, and then you kind of build on that. So I think all of those resources have been so valuable, and we've learned so much through the processes. And also just met so many artists, and then been able to help refer people to great artists that we've worked with as well, and kind of maintain those relationships beyond the projects, and then reached out for other opportunities. So I think that's what I want to share. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. It was great to hear from you, and I'm excited that we're working on another project together now. We actually have a celebration for one of them, the one on the right there with the butterflies, tomorrow. So if you're around the Riverside area, feel free to drop by around 11:30 to celebrate this project and have some cake. But now we'll move forward and talk a little bit about the application process. So we'll first talk about the timeline. Our applications are open now, so please feel free to apply. They will be open until November 19th, and that's when we'll be closing down the application portal to review all the applicants. After that, we will be sending out acceptance letters, and then in November, we'll start our coaching calls and our one-on-one calls with the BIAs. This is when we'll really go through the project details, finalize all of those, and then start connecting the BIAs to artists in December. So that's when we'll, maybe provide a few options, or if you have artists you wish to work with, you can let us know and we can reach out to them. So December, November, both of the planning months, January and March, will be when the activation is actually produced, installed, and promoted. So we'll have the artists go in and install. We'll have the documentarian come down and take some pictures of the process. We do love to capture this, as you can see in this slide here. And then, like mentioned before, we'll have a photo shoot at the end to celebrate. For this round, we do need to have all projects completed by March 31st. That will be the final deadline. And that's to ensure that you're able to be entered into the prize award ceremony component of this project. The application form is pretty straightforward. You can access it through our website. It is a Google form, and it will ask you a few questions, such as what challenges your BIA is facing. So we did have an amazing brainstorm session just now, so you can pull from there. We'll also ask for any Main Street activation ideas. So some BIAs apply to this with a set idea that they really know that they want to work on. Some BIAs may have multiple ideas that they apply with, and that's when we can really discuss in our kickoff call which one we should go with. We'd love to hear the goals that you seek to achieve through these activations, and that will just help us guide you in which ways to move forward with these projects to help you achieve the goal. And we would also love, again, to hear the artists you're interested in working with, if you have any in mind, and then confirm resources. So we do suggest that BIAs apply to this program with at least $2,000 to put forward. And that will just ensure that you have enough funding to pay the artist fairly, as well as have funding for any material or printing costs that might be associated with your project. Again, we do accept BIAs with a range of budgets. It could be $2,000 up to $20,000. We don't really pick based off of the budget. It's more based off of the project. And again, the budget will really depend on the scope in the project that you're proposing to us. I'll hand it off to Krupa now to talk a bit more about the artists.
Thank you, Madison. So with the artists, we'll be asking you to put in some artists that you are interested in engaging with. You can either select the STEPS artist roster. We have over 150 artists that range in media and aesthetics. We could also do a call for artists to engage more local artists in the community who knows the history and the space and actually residing in the area. Many of these artists will be available for these type of activations. Keep in mind that your top choices may not be available during that timeline, so make sure you have some backup artists who have the same aesthetic or style that you want to portray in the community. The other option is for BAs to work with local artists who identify as BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color artists that they wish to work with. And STEPS is also committed to amplifying these underrepresented voices in public spaces. And we love working with new and emerging artists all the time and getting to know them. And it is also important to note that STEPS advocates for equitable artist payments that follow the CARFAC guidelines. The artist fee will vary depending on the number of hours needed to complete the project and the scope of work. The artist subsidies provided by STEPS likely will not cover the entire artist fee, and the BIA will be expected to pay the remaining artist fee in order to meet the CARFAC requirements of equitable pay. And this can be worked out in the budget as we continue with our kickoff meetings. And with the application form, the next steps would be to submit your application online. We will review them after October 19th, but we're also doing it on a rolling basis. So the faster that you apply.
Best place to listen for everyone.
Right. If you're a likely candidate for the program, we'll reach out and ask for more clarification questions if needed. And then we'll just set up a kickoff meeting and to discuss where this project can start off with. So that's exciting. And the next steps are pretty simple. We have an evaluation form that we would like for you to fill out. We'll be posting it in the chat. And this short survey is just going to help us to know how the info session went and to improving ways that we can deliver the information to you as we proceed in the project forward. And we appreciate your feedback on the program. It makes us better each round. We encourage you to keep brainstorming opportunities, assets, and challenges in your BIAs. If you haven't already done so, please take this information back to your board and work with them on fleshing out the ideas for this program and into completing this application. Once again, the portal will close on November 19th, so please submit your application early. We only have a number of certain spots that are available, so we would love to work with you. And I will pass it over to Madison.
Thank you, Krupa. So now it's time for our question portion of this project. So please feel free to either pop your question in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask the question verbally as well.
Hi, it's Pam Staples. So there's this intake, and then when is the dates for the next intake?
The next intake, we don't have confirmed dates at this moment, but they will likely begin in April. So we'll start launching the next round in April, and it will be a prep time in the spring to get these projects organized. The summer will be the installation period, and the fall will be the wrap-up period. So for example, right now we're wrapping up by the end of October all of our summer projects, and then we'll have a little bit of leeway into these winter projects.
Great, thank you.
That being said, if you do have a project that might be more catered towards the summer, you can still apply because we do have some spaces or time in the spring to have these projects come to life. So there could be a nice opportunity to plan over the winter, and then as soon as the weather is nice and we're able to go outside and produce work, then that can happen.
Sorry, I guess I thought I understood that the application has to be done by March 31st.
It does. So it depends kind of like, I'm not sure exactly what you have in mind. Like painting's not really well suited to be done in March, but if it's street furniture, for example, and it can be produced indoors, we've had BIAs create picnic benches and tables inside over the winter, and then in spring it's out, and in that case it's already finished by March. It's just maybe not utilized the same way until later on.
Okay, great, thank you.
No problem. We can also discuss more, Pam, if you have a specific idea in mind when the best time to apply would be.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sort of in a weird area because I'm sort of an independent artist, but the BIA that the town I used to live in is very interested, and I'm just trying to figure out, I'm just trying to gather information so I can go to them and say, okay, these are the things that you can do with this program. Now, if there are local artists in the community, can they also apply to be on your roster?
The roster intake is a bit different. So we do that, I believe, either once a year, once every few years, and artists are able to apply to be on it. But with this program, it's not restricted to just artists on our roster. If you have a local artist in mind, then we would love to work with them, because we believe it's best to work with artists who are from these local communities, because they know the community firsthand. They have these ties to the area. So we want to be able to have space in these communities for them to share their stories and celebrate where they come from.
Great, thank you.
Problem. We have a question in the chat. Just to clarify, is the maximum amount of funding available from HeART Main Street $1,000? So yes, we can only support financially up to $1,000 for the artist fee. That being said, with all of the pro bono aspects the program has, so the pro bono documentation, pro bono steps, staff fees, the signage, the social media posts, the videos that are done, that would all value to around $2,000. So at the end of the day, you're getting around a $3,000 grant, but only $1,000 you'll actually see, I guess, on the financial side. Another question from Jamie. We have a high school art class wanting to do some art for us. Have you experienced this before, and how would we be compensating them? So we have worked with community members before, and typically we would have an honorarium for them. So we can discuss the fees around that in that sense. I think when it's with high school students, it also would depend how old they are in terms of how much they're able to be paid if they're able to be legally working. So we can definitely discuss that, Jamie, in depth more. But I think it's great. We've definitely have had projects where we connect with communities and schools, where we do community engagement workshops, where then we can discuss what they want to see in the art piece, and then the artist will take that away and create a mural or create a piece that reflect what we've discussed with these school groups. Cami asks, what is your social following in the West? So I'm not sure 100% if we can give you a number. Gracie might have a better idea of around that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to take on this question. We do have pretty great following across Canada as a national organization, and we do projects outside of Ontario. We have a lot of artist programs, residencies, and virtual programs for youth that are happening across the country. So yeah, we do have quite a broad network. We also have advisory committees across the country as well. So we're very much interested in expanding our reach across different cities and provinces, and to bring this program outside of Ontario as well. And our artist roster also goes beyond like the Greater Toronto area as well. So thanks to all of our growing projects across provinces, we are continuing to grow our artist network and our community network. So I hope that answers your question. Thanks.
I see another question, which is, do artists have to be BIPOC? How about other underrepresented groups such as LGBTQ2IA+, disability and neurodivergent? So artists can be from any of those groups. We just want to give a voice and space for artists that might not have equal chance to display their work. So any artist that might represent or might be part of an equity seeking group, they're able to get the support from us. That being said, any artist can participate, but our artist fee subsidy does prioritize artists who are from equity seeking groups. See, Sarah's asking, would HeART Main Street help artists find a second artist to work with for their concept? Or would I find someone to come up with another concept together? We can 100% help you find another artist. We definitely can discuss this more too if you have a specific idea, whether it be you two working together to create one concept, or if you wanted multiple concepts within the space. But we definitely can help connect you to other artists for a project. No problem. Let's see, we have a few more questions, a little bit more time. So we have a question, how do we find a new place to exhibit the project after the initial project is completed? So if we do have a more temporary project that's being displayed in the BIA, then we've had times where the BIA might take this work back and display it in their office, or they might allow businesses to display it in their windows, or if there's a community center such as a library or rec center, then that can also be relocated there to live on. Another question is, any ideas around involving schools or youth groups in these public art pieces? So like mentioned before, we do love community engagement options. So if you did want to involve other groups or open up this project to the community, then we can have different activities, and that could be either facilitated by us, or it could be facilitated by steps plus an artist that you might be working with for this project. So again, a way to educate the community on the importance of public art and allow them to have a further sense of pride and connection to these pieces because they were able to produce something themselves. Any more questions? Feel free to type in the chat or unmute yourself. If any questions come up too, feel free to reach out to us via email. We're always happy to have a phone call or connect with you whatever way is most convenient for you. But it seems like there are no more questions at this point. So we can end the meeting a few minutes early. But thank you all for coming out today. It was really nice to see all of you interested in this project, and I hope to see some of your applications come in. And please reach out to any of us if you have any questions you want to talk about. But please enjoy the rest of your evening and enjoy the few minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.